Hey everyone, host of Shelves, Jeremy Meyer here. If you like the podcast, I thought I'd recommend a couple others for you. If you want to hear more about unproduced scripts, check out Screenplay Archaeology. If you want to hear some other movie or entertainment-related discussion, check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you're interested in some video game discussion, check out my friends over at the Darkcast and darkstation.com. Also be sure to visit some of our friends of the show, the Nerds and Marks podcast and 616 Entertainment. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Shelved Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. So today's, kind of a extra bonus episode. I was wanting to save this for next week, but what I'm talking about is actually going to be coming out on Wednesday, so I thought I would just put it out today. But today is another interview that I picked up from C2E2 in Chicago, where I talked to Tom Bilyeu, who you may know, you may not know, but he was the co-founder of Quest Nutrition, which was super crazy, something I didn't know. When I was contacted by his rep or whatever, they were just talking about his comic book, which is what we were talking today, but he was also the founder of Impact Theory, which is like a media company, and, also, from what I've picked up, kind of still tied heavily into the nutrition stuff, but more recently, they have decided to get into comic book publishing. This is a dude, he just, he doesn't need to do this, but just decided to, he wanted to get into comic books. He was a fan of comic books growing up, and he decided to take it upon himself of I'm going to get into this business. And, we kind of talk about that journey, and they have their first issue of their first book, Neon Future, coming out on Wednesday. So that's going to be issue 1, and then it's going to be, monthly after that on every Wednesday. I'm going to read the synopsis for Neon Future here, which, a little, just kind of a brief summary is it's a comic book, in a future world where people are getting augmented, and it was written by Jim Kreuger, Eisner Award winning, who, be sure to look up his work as well, so you can see some awesome comic stuff. So there's actual pedigree behind this book, but Steve Aoki is also heavily involved in the book, and a character is inspired by him. And that was kind of one of the things that drew me to this when I got the release for it. I was like, wait, what? But it's, a really fascinating book and a fascinating story, and the art is incredible. So I'm just going to read the little synopsis here for Neon Future. And then we're going to go into the interview with Tom Bilyeu. So, in a future where technology is illegal, a war is brewing between the augmented who have chosen to integrate technology into their bodies and the authentic who have not. The resistance movement, Neon Future, strives to bring peace by showing the world a brighter future in harmony with technology. But when authentic hero and TV star Clay Campbell dies unexpectedly, Neon Future's mysterious leader, Kita Sylvie, inspired by Steve Aoki, is forced to decide whether to use his latest technological innovation to bring Clay back from the dead. This choice threatens to tip the uneasy balance between the government and the techno class into an all-out civil war. From Eisner Award-winning Jim Kreuger comes an innovative and compelling story of the dangers of blind trust and the power of human potential. Immediately this book sounded super interesting to me, and the art is incredible. There's also a trailer for it on YouTube. If you just search Neon Future, it's one of the first thing that pops up. I highly recommend going to check that out. But yeah, so, it was really great to talk to Tom. He was super nice. Dude was real quick on his answers. Clearly, he hosts a talk show on Impact Theory that dude's used to talking and was talking circles around me. So he was really fun, really entertaining to talk to. And Neon Future is going to have, a 6-issue run. If it does well, they're gonna keep going with it. And then they're putting out a couple other series, which he was talking about. One in particular that really interested me, and it comes up on the interview, is one called Powerless that I really want to check out. But I really hope you enjoy this interview. It was really good to talk to Tom and learn more about impact theory and just what it's like for a new publisher getting into comics. So thank you and enjoy the show. All right, so sorry, don't really need this. Thanks for having me over here. It's really fun to talk to you, but I just kind of want to get to know you a little bit. How did you kind of get into this world of comics here?
So I've been, as a fan, interested since I was a teenager, and it started for me with just the art. I was so entranced by the early image stuff, thought it was so incredible. And then as I got into my 20s, got more into the writing side of it and found, the great writers of basically any generation, the Alan Moores and some of the amazing stuff that Frank Miller was doing. It was just really, really earth-shattering and showed me how deep the visual storytelling could be in comics. So that's how I started as a fan. As a publisher, I got into it because I believe in it as a rich medium for storytelling and just really believe in the power of story. But the big thing that drew me to comics is the ability to create a community around a property.
And so is this your publishing company then?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Impact Theory.
Okay. And how long ago did you start Impact Theory?
Impact Theory started 2.5 years ago, and we finished our first book. We wrapped it about 5 months ago, or at least the first issue, but now to get in sync with Diamond's distribution schedule, it's just now coming out.
Yeah. And what's the name of that book?
Neon Future.
And so this is your first foray into comics. How did this come about? I know it's you and Steve Aoki. So how did that relationship kind of come about?
So I have an interview show called Impact Theory, and he was a guest on the show. And when I was researching him, I realized he actually plans to be cryogenically frozen when he dies. And I thought that was so cool. And I personally would love to live forever. That is definitely a stated goal. So when I realized we clicked on that, we started talking, got to know each other really well over about a year, and I pitched him the idea of what would it look like if someone with his compassion actually had the ability to bring somebody back from the dead. And he loved the idea. We got together, brainstormed it, and decided to start it with the world's most famous anti-tech crusader dies and is resurrected using the very technology he tried to destroy. And we brought on Eisner Award-winning writer Jim Kreuger to help us build the world and tell the story, and that's how we got started.
So who's actually like handling all the writing, all the art, and like did Steve Aoki actually have did he help come up with like chunks of the story, or was he mostly just like inspiration?
No, he's been incredibly involved from the beginning, and he, with Jim Kreuger and myself, got together and built the whole world out. I mean, it's really a big world, and my hope is that these issues will sell well and we can continue beyond the first 6, which are a guarantee. But yeah, the 3 of us came together, actually brought on 2 more writers from TV to do a writer room style build out, and yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and we've got 5 issues done and 1 more on the way.
And when does the first issue launch?
It hits shelves on Wednesday, so a little less than a week from today, and then monthly after that for 6 months.
All right. Now, when it comes to like the art and everything, there's a trailer for the book on YouTube that I saw, which is kind of what really pulled me into this. Because when I got the notification of this, I'm like, whoa, this sounds really crazy. And then I watched that trailer. I was like, oh, I'm actually totally going to read this book. So, what was kind of the inspiration for just like the look and design? Did you pull any of that from any of we got a lot of sci-fi and media nowadays, or like what was the main inspiration for your design of the future?
I am a freak for cyberpunk, so I just absolutely loved it and wanted to create something that had cues from that genre. But my biggest complaint about cyberpunk is they imagine a world that's too soon to be technologically feasible. So they'll say like Blade Runner 2049, which is one of my top 5 films of all time.
It was fantastic.
Love that movie.
I have the unpopular opinion of I thinking 2049 was actually a million times better than the original, but maybe that's my age.
Dude, I really was blown away by 2049, so I don't think you're crazy there.
Yeah.
My only beef is in 2049, there's no way that the world will have changed just at a physical architecture level that much. It would be impossible. Yeah. So now if it were Blade Runner 2079, maybe. So we wanted to do something that was 30 years in the future so that you really recognize the world. So visually it was trying to give you cues of you wouldn't feel totally out of place walking down the street, but yet the world will have advanced tremendously in the next 30 years. So that was between cyberpunk and just trying to be a little more realistic. That's how we came up with the aesthetic.
Are there any like really cool kind of just like personal technologies in the book aside from just like futuristic architecture?
Yeah, definitely. So in fact, we're far more into the personal technology than we are the architecture. And I wanted this to be really sort of science facty. So if you look at what Elon Musk is doing with his neural implant company, it's crazy to think that's actually happening today. There are people that are quadriplegics that can control an exoskeleton that plugs into their brain. This is happening right now today.
That's insane.
So we exaggerated a little bit, obviously, for narrative impact, but
it's also based off real technology. I mean, that's kind of what you do. You just look at what we have now and how what could the advancement of that look like in the future?
Yeah, so we did a whole breakdown of what all the technologies were that we did in the book, and then how many of them are based on something that's real today. And I'll say at least 70%, maybe 80% of the technology that we imagine is just like something that already exists, and we're saying, okay, what does this look like 7 or 8 generations down the road?
And I kind of just want to ask, like, what's the hope for your publishing company? Are you talking to a lot of other creators and hoping to have like more books coming out soon?
Yeah, most definitely. So a big part of coming to shows like this is to get to know people, to do the, just the relationship building that comes with this stuff. But we're beginning to put together a stable of writers and artists, and our goal over the next 12 months would be to have 3 books on the shelves at the same time, and then working our way towards, call it 10 books annually, all somewhere between 6 issues and ongoing.
I mean, what was it like first getting into it? Like, was it as difficult as you thought it was? Like, more difficult?
Infinitely more difficult. Like, when I say that I looked at this and I thought, we got this.
Yeah.
So my last company was a manufacturing company that made nutrition. So that was insane. And I'll admit comics is a lot easier than that. But having done that, I thought, oh man, there's no way this will be challenging like that was. And it really is, man. Like it is a beast unto itself. And so figuring your way around, getting artists, getting writers, getting distribution, it is not easy. So I have a lot of sympathy for startup people self-publishing.
And what was that like being like a new small publisher in the business? Like, did you meet any kind of like pushback from anybody, or did you feel kind of welcome in the industry?
No, you get pushback from every single person you meet. You've really got to want to win in comics to get into this game. So it's like at an individual level, the people here are so lovely, it's crazy. Just beautiful, and they want to help and all that. But the machine of it all, like getting a booth in San Diego Comic-Con, forget it. We've been on a wait list for years.
I've heard it's insane.
Insane. Getting into Diamond, forget it. It's like next to impossible. And if it wasn't for some amazing people who just kept pestering them on our behalf, we never would have gotten pickup. And then you start meeting people like the guys at Vault Comics, I don't know if you know them, extraordinarily generous human beings who are putting out absolutely top-notch books and are trying to really support creators that are up and coming. And I think they're going to win because they're not being like, there's only room for one winner. It's like they're really, really trying to help just everyone they meet. And so I think that always wins in the long run. Yeah,
that's one thing, you hear about a lot of jaded people in any kind of business industry. It's always nice to hear someone who's looking out for like the little guy.
Yeah, there's a mix, man. In comics, there's a lot of people that are jaded, but there's also just a lot of beautiful human beings.
Yeah. So when you were talking about like as a fan, the people you were looking at as like that you were a fan of, were they the ones that were kind of your main inspiration when actually getting into comics, or were you kind of picking up new inspirations along the way?
Yeah, so I'll say that getting into it, I've really tried to find people that are ultra contemporary. When I think about what's going to make this industry win, because I'm in this for the long run, man. So I'm thinking about the industry has done a historically terrible fucking job at getting the next generation. And like everyone in this industry needs to take a cold, hard look at how we've come up, because it's not been inviting to young people. And if you go into a local comic shop, most people are going to be over 30 years old. And you're in an industry where your customers are dying off, like literally dying off. Yeah. So I'm trying to find out like what is speaking to that next generation. What's popping off? Why is manga popular? Is it just because of anime? Like, or is there something to the style of storytelling? Is it the excitement over something coming from the outside? But I think we have to really look at that as an industry, stay fresh. Artists and writers have to push themselves. So just so you know, and I've talked about this on my show a lot, but I am haunted by a quote that genius is a young man's game. And when you look at the Nobel Prizes that have been won, it is almost exclusively done by people that are in their 60s for work they did in their 20s. And I just refuse to let my past be bigger than my future. But if you're going to be that way, you have to constantly reinvent yourself. And so every 10 years, I have unintentionally, quite frankly, found myself in a totally new industry. I started in filmmaking, then I was into technology, then I went from technology to nutrition. Now I'm going from nutrition into comics and filmmaking.
Really couldn't be like any more different.
No, you couldn't. But here's the thing, like what I've learned in manufacturing, how to run, I had 3,000 employees. So it's like going from that to understanding the way that trade shows are done there, understanding how retail is done in food, and then the perspective it gives me on how retail is being done in the comic industry, it's like, guys, this is crazy, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So you have that fresh perspective from the outside. I think that's so critical. And I'm really excited to see a lot of young creators stepping up and saying, we have to do this in a new way, we've got to do things differently. And I think that this is a time where it's ripe for disruption. And I think a lot of amazing stuff is going to be born out of this. So, yeah, I mean, it's about finding those fresh voices, fresh ideas, fresh audience, all of it.
I mean, I'm a writer myself, which is kind of why my podcast focuses on writing. And on my bucket list one day is to write a comic book. So what, like, for you, like, and especially now being as a publisher, what are you looking for, or what kind of advice would you give, like, a young creator looking to get into comics today?
Go fucking create. Like, and now I'm talking to you directly. Like, There is no bucket list. There is today, when you get back to your hotel, like, start outlining your arc, man, and just really start going into it. And it's like, look, I have 25 employees, I have a multi-million-dollar business, and I'm still fucking writing these comics. Like, literally, panel 1, and I'm fucking typing words.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can find time to do it, you can find time to do it. And it just comes down to like saying, I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes a day, every day. And then when your juices are flowing, then 20 minutes becomes 60 minutes. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the month, you've got something. Yeah. And it's like, if somebody's trying to break in, the answer is, right now, you suck. You do.
Yeah,
and here's the great
100%.
news. If you write every day, you're going to stop sucking, and you're going to get better every day. So the only way to get better, though, is to do it, to practice, to just not be afraid to fail. And if people do that and they really pour their heart and soul into it and accept that you're bad right now, but that the only way to get good is to do it, then we'll have a whole new generation of creators that are doing just amazing shit because they weren't afraid.
Yeah, it's something I see a lot on like social media and Twitter. Everybody's always like, oh, how do I do it? And it's my favorite piece of advice. The same advice you're giving me is you just got to do it. Like, I just finished a draft of a screenplay. I sent it away. I know the notes are going to be, this is terrible. Here's what you need to fix. And that's just something you need to accept. It's the only way you get better.
Yeah, 100%. And if people are broken by, hey, this sucks, then they're never going to get better. And so everybody, whether it's Michael Jordan, whether it's Tom King, like whoever you're looking at, you think, oh my God, they're this untouchable talent. It's because they put in the work. And so people just have to practice. Like, there's just no way about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to look up to our favorite creators, and you got to realize there was a point where they sucked too. It's just you didn't see it.
Correct.
You're seeing what made it to the shelves.
Exactly.
So I mean, with Neon Future, you said you have the first 6 issues, good to go. Are there any other stories you already have kind of in the back burner that you're already thinking to create?
Oh yeah. So we have 2 that are in active development right now. One of them is called Powerless. It's about these 2 identical twins, and one of them encounters an alien who gives them superpowers.
Okay.
And so it becomes a sort of Batman versus Superman thing where one brother's given everything and the other has nothing and feels like a total loser because his brother is now so famous and powerful. And so his journey is about climbing out of depression, stopping comparing himself, and realizing, wait a second, like Batman, I can build my own powers.
That sounds like something that I will personally really connect with. It sounds really great. It actually reminds me of the movie Chronicle, where the kids, they all get powers. That movie really resonated with me, and as you were telling me that, I was kind of getting those feelings again.
Man, I loved Chronicle.
Yeah, that movie, it really took me by surprise.
You and me both.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I mean, is there anything else you want to say about Neon Future and, I mean, your publishing company and anything that's going on?
I hope people will give us a chance. I think the book is absolutely A+ quality. I'll put it next to Marvel and DC on every level. Writing, art, the color is just out of this world.
As we've been sitting here, I keep looking at this poster behind you. I'm just mesmerized by the colors of it, and just I love the art style. I hope people check it out. And check out the trailer on YouTube. It's completely what sold me. I hope great success for your books, and I hope people support their stores and get it there and go out and buy it.
Love it, man. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting down and doing this with me.
You got it.
All right. Can I just get how to pronounce your last name just for myself?
Yeah,
for my
of course.
Intro?
It's Bilyeu. So if you owe somebody money, they bill you.
All right. Perfect. Thanks.